societally, we're programmed to be monogamous, even though genetically we're not. Genetically, we're non-monogamous. It's society that programs us to be monogamous. And that's actually, I think, one of the key things that is like, therein lies the origin of the struggle. All the strife stems from that like inherently in our genetics, we are not monogamous. We're not monogamous beings, but yet society tells us. I've got a book on that if you want to read it.
But I mean, like, I was actually like on that side of the fence in the last episode, but now that I think about it, genetically, I think that's a gray area, because the nuclear family aspect is not only like present in the rest of the animal kingdom in a pretty great degree, but it's also something that has been part of human society for so long that the tendency toward that family altruism and so on and so forth has actually been selected for a lot. And normal evolution, like random mutations and random selection of those things based on survival and things like that, that takes a lot longer than preference selection.
No, I agree. I think you're absolutely correct in that, but those things are not mutually exclusive.
Right. And it's not to say that it's all genetics that play into that either.
Well,
I just wanted to say that, like, you can't really say 100% like genetically we just have to fuck a bunch of people.
No, and again, that's narrowing the view, I guess. They're not mutually exclusive. Like you know, and our nearest genetic ancestors operate non-monogamously. Geez, that's a mouthful. Yeah. Yeah. And
let's see the transcript figure that one out.
Yeah. You can have like the nuclear family structure and still also have more than one partner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, those things are not like, just because you have one doesn't mean you can't have the other.
True.
And yes, I mean, sure, structurally speaking, you know, societally speaking, it does make sense. Like, that kind of structure does benefit us. It obviously makes us survive better.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean that we're inherently monogamous and that we can't be non-monogamous and still maintain that sort of structure. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, it does. I just started getting like another awesome idea. Like, I wonder if economics and politics actually play a huge role in relationship styles.
Ooh.
Because capitalism and all that stuff is kind of what traps people in the need for a nuclear family. You know, having to rely on another person to survive financially or whatever, things like that. I feel like that kind of traps people, and not even trap, but like directs the flow of that river toward the nuclear family.
Well,
statistics are all built around that. Think about it, like you know, a family with 2.5 kids or whatever, and all that stuff. Like,
I think that need predates government, because if you took away all governmental structures, you're still gonna need to work together, right? Yes. You're gonna be stronger if you work together, if you have more people involved in doing a thing, in surviving, essentially.
But if you go back to what I was saying about preferential selection and genes and so on and so forth, government has existed you know, like even monarchies back in the day were governments, right? Like
Mhm.
it's been around as, you know, as long as recorded history has been, right?
And you can even go back to the tribal times where
Yeah.
you just had like the elders that were
Mhm.
essentially the government or the judicial system,
So
essentially.
I think there is kind of a natural like tendency to form these small pockets, and interestingly enough, like we've talked about before, the geographical reach of governments, if you look at it, the nuclear family, it's kind of like a tiny little government, right? Like
Mhm.
the parents are the ones in charge, and the kids are the constituents, and
Well, and actually, you know, while I don't believe in hierarchies or a hierarchical structure being formally utilized, hierarchical structures naturally
right,
arise from human interaction. Somebody is the expert, right?
you
Somebody
have
is
to
the one
defer
that,
to experience. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Oh, like this person's sort of in charge because they know how to do this. They've done this 1,000 times. Like obviously you know, they would be the one that would kind of dictate. Or maybe this person is just really good at rallying people together and getting people to motivated to do something. Whereas, you know, another person might not be like that. So it's like these things naturally, hierarchies naturally emerge from human interaction. And those are okay. Those, you know, when you haven't selected a person, like to, if it's natural, if it just arises because the best people for that position fit that role, that makes sense. And I don't have a problem with that. It's when it's artificial, when it's like, well, which most governments are artificial, like you said, monarchies, right? Like why is that person? Well, because they were born from this other person who was a monarch before,
Right.
like, so
Yeah.
naturally they're the monarch now. Like, well,
So
wait, no,
dumb.
yeah, that doesn't make any sense. And
Yeah.
you know, even when it comes to like you know, our system in the US, or well, in Germany too, like people vote for people. It's like, well, they're just the people who ran for a position. They're not necessarily the best person for that role. It's just those are the people who came to the surface because they chose to do it. Like it,
Yeah. At the same time, I could see an argument for wanting somebody in that position that actually wants to be there rather than like, say, like people watch this show and they're like, oh, these guys should totally be president of the world, and we're suddenly thrust into that position. Uh,
Mhm.
Maybe we don't want to be, even though
Well,
we
no,
actually
yeah,
do, and we should be the kings of the world. Uh,
yeah. Well, I think that a position like that, like a top dog position, should never exist. It's kind of
right,
stupid.
right.
It makes sense in like a small town, right? A town of like 500 people. Sure, you can have like a mayor or something, one person for 500 people. That's no problem. But one person for 330 million people, that's asinine. Like that
The,
doesn't make any sense. It should be, you got to spread it out a little bit. Like
the
it's,
the concept of the town elder kind of makes sense. Like
mhm.
it's somebody that you go to for advice, but you don't follow it like strictly, like their word is the law and this and that.
Well,
And
yeah,
and there's plenty of situations, like just look at the US government, where like having an old person in power is not a good idea either.
no,
Like,
no, and that like, I think you're right though. Like the taking advice, somebody who like an elder or a panel of elders, right? Like, oh, these are all the people we go to ask questions, right?
yeah,
And they put together their wisdom and provide us the best possible answer, or whatever, like the path that makes the most sense, or something like that. That, I think that's a good thing, and we don't do that, obviously. In most like Western countries, we don't do that at all.
I can't
It's
think of a single country that has just like an advisor that people like kind of look up to and collectively just kind of go with whatever makes sense, you know?
well, yeah, because it's like, well, if they're wise enough, they don't need to have a dictatorial stance. They like the answer that they give should be obvious. Like people would, hey, oh, wise one, tell me the way. And they would dispense their wisdom, and people would respond like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. We're going to do that because obviously that makes sense. And they would have no need to enforce anything. It would be enforced by the fact that it's the best idea.
Yeah. I love how we went from polyamory to politics. From poly to poly.
Yeah, I know. Oh,
Shit, that should be the title.
Oh yeah, poly with a Y to poly with an I. Yeah. Yep. That's a good idea. I think that we've gone pretty far.
Yeah.
But
we could turn this into 3 weeks worth of episodes. Like,
yeah, we could. But it's probably just about all the time we have for today, I think.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I'm cutting into warm Polish beer now. Yeah, this is funny. Like Tuski. So this is a Polish beer sold here in Germany with the Swedish name for Germany. Tusklin.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Oh man.
It's not bad though.
Right on.
Not bad. And it says 18 plus. 18 here in Germany.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Instead of 21. Like,
yeah, as it should be, really.
Yeah, really.
Like,
yeah.
I mean, whatever time you're an adult, that then you should be able to do all the adult things. Otherwise, you're not an adult yet, right? I mean, you're kind of partially there, but not quite.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think we did an episode about that too. We could probably do more.
We probably did. Yeah. It's getting hard to remember all these episodes. Like, yeah, we have over 500 videos on the channel. Like,
yeah, it's a little difficult to keep track.
500.
Jeez, man. Well, pretty soon we'll be looking back and like, oh, 500. Oh, that's quaint. Now that we have like 2,500. Oh man. Well, yeah, I'd like to hear. Wow, I mean, now we've expanded the possible commentary. But yeah, anybody, any ideas about any of this stuff? Any thoughts you have? Just leave them down there in the comment section. We might respond, or maybe we'll make an episode out of it.
I bet we could do a whole episode on how politics shaped the nuclear family.
Yeah,
you know, like that's kind of an interesting hypothesis, really.
Sure. Yeah, or vice versa. I mean, you know, what is it? What's the thing about art? Is like art reflective of culture, or does art form culture? Like influence culture? Like that kind of thing. And I feel like politics might be very similar. Like there is not really an answer to that. But that's for another episode, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. It's rather warm in here.
Yeah. Not so much here, but
not as warm as this beer is, but I will drink it anyway.
Well, why not?
Because
booty's down. Oh man.
Well, thanks for deep sink diving with us into Poly and Poly. A little bit more Poly than the Poly, though.
Yes. Yeah. Next time we'll get into Poly.
Yeah.
More.
You know, we haven't actually done like a full politics episode this season.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll have to. Well, I think your idea might yield a lot of interesting conversation.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we're like 20% through the season and we haven't done politics.
Exactly. Yeah, we haven't even done a lightning round yet, have we?
Not yet.
Okay. Well, we'll do that too.
Yeah.
Well, that's coming up. We'll make it a point to do
coming
that.
Soon to a kitchen sink near you.
A lot of the education seems to focus on, when it comes to those things, like, oh, you know, use condoms. This is here's STDs and blah 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 and prevent pregnancy and stuff. But there's more to that. It's the interactions, your psychology when you're physically involved with another person.
And we went into Alexanderplatz, and by the stoplight, there was this apartment building right in front. About on the 4th or 5th floor, I think, there were these two men, totally naked, and on the balcony, making out and groping and stuff. And I'm like, you do you.
I actually think earlier than 4th grade might be a good time to start introducing the premise, just because of pedophiles and predators and stuff like that. Like, make children aware that there's this thing that they don't really fully understand yet, but it could really fuck up their entire lives and their entire mentality if they don't know how to, like, either put a stop to it or tell someone how to put a stop to it.